All right, if that's the case on that part, I'll move on to mine. Mine's completely the opposite to you. And what I mean by that is you went for the gritty, realistically kind of bizarre, even though it does have the kind of thing psychological thriller with creepy children. I've gone for the over-the-top, funny, silly, random animated movie. And that one is called Rango.
I disliked that from first seeing a trailer.
Ah, this is the thing. The trailer's very misleading. Now, Rango is a very interesting mix. I do say that the publicity for Rango was very misleading because it's passing off as one of these very quirky kind of like kids movies. You know, it's all people like oh, look at us, we're kind of surreal, but we're really designed for the children. It really isn't. And what I mean by that is that while the kids could watch this movie and giggle a little because it's animals dressed up like cowboys, okay, but it's not. It's a movie that I personally think is not going to be really designed. It wasn't really designed well for kids, even though it's actually been. It's a movie done by Nickelodean, actually.
Wow.
Here's what I've decided. What I mean is that there are funny bits. In fact, if I have to divide the film up into the three acts, you've got the first act and the third act, where it is quite goofy, especially the first act, which is probably the funniest thing in the film. Then you've got the second act, and then a bit in the third act, where it becomes, I'm not kidding you, a very serious, very adult, pop-referenced Western. And a good one at that. Just done with animals, and lizards, and birds.
And because it's not by DreamWorks, they don't make that goofy face.
Exactly. The only way I can really describe it is that it's so surprisingly misleading. So if you're going in here thinking happy, quirky comedy movie, you're going to be very disappointed by that. But if you're going in here completely blankly and absorb it, you'll really appreciate it as a good Western. And it references so many movies. I have to give you a brief description of the plot. First of all, you guys have got a tiny little chameleon called Rango. For some reason, he's in a shirt. Let's not question that. All right. Okay,
Why can't we question that?
You don't question it because of the things that happen afterwards. Another thing you don't question, that he has a dream of being an actor, to the point that at the very beginning he's in this like little closure and he's trying to reenact a famous scene that he's always wanted to reenact with, let's say, like a wind-up fish, a part of a doll, and a palm tree. Okay, yeah. It's already. This is quite funny and quite quirky as it is. And then suddenly, due to the owners in the car, because in the car at the moment, because they're all in a car driving away down, I think, going on holiday, and the enclosure jumps out of the car due to a swerving thing, and so he's lost now in the middle of the desert. So now he's pretty much lost in the middle of the desert. So he's walking about until he stumbles across some very peculiar characters that eventually lead him to this town. This town run entirely by critters, and it's pretty much an old-school Western town. One that you could probably see in any Sergio Leone movie, and I mean any of them. It is ridiculous how pretty much of a Western this gets. And what happens is that since he's brand spanking new and he's trying to pull off his acting skills, he's pretty much almost convinced everybody in the town that he is this hardcore, stone-cold killer who apparently killed a whole gang of this evil bandit gang with one bullet.
Okay.
And because of that, everyone in the town believes him, and including the mayor, who says that we need a sheriff. So they hire him to be the sheriff of the town, trying to go under and solve out a conspiracy involving a drought, because this town is really running out of water, and they're trying to figure out. And then basically, he's kind of on the mystery to figure out what's happened to all the water, and whether the people in higher power are actually probably involved in it. Now, if
question.
Go on.
They're running out of water because they're in the desert. Continue.
Oh, I'll explain that a little bit better. But yeah, overall, if I just told you that plot, could you honestly say that's a kid's plot?
Well,
no.
Well,
that's the thing. It really doesn't.
It is the kid's plot because it's got animals.
No,
I mean, apart from the bullet killing the 3 people, that's completely not kid-worthy at all.
No, the whole point. Well, yeah, I get what you mean, but it's more like if you replace the animals with people, it's not a kid's plot. It's not softened up for children. It's not anything up like that. And when you watch the film, you will notice this. And
But I'll back off that question. I'm sorry, but only a kid would not make the logical conclusion that they're in a searing hot desert. That's why there's no water. But
no, here's the thing, because it's not the water part, because they go to this town. I have to explain this then. This town has this gigantic tap, this humongous faucet tap, right? And what happens is that this is where the water comes from. This is where it leaches out. And the more further you get into it, you realize, oddly enough, that this town is very near Las Vegas, which is full of water. So the question is this tap comes from Las Vegas, but suddenly the tap doesn't work, and so that's when the drought occurs. And then they start wondering who's messing with the tap.
I don't know. Who is?
I can't tell you. But what I'm saying at the end of the day is, when it comes to the whole thing with that drought, is to spin that across, the plot in itself is so self-referencing in terms of movies that follow this. Not only westerns like Sergio Leone westerns, which I'm very tempted not to spoil this, but I do want to mention it. We do even include references to the man with no name in this, where Rango does become the man with no name, and I kid you not, there's a very interesting cameo.
Ned Beatty.
Clint Eastwood playing the man with no name. It's that freaking obvious. Again, the drought plot line is Chinatown to a T. In fact, they even reference Chinatown. In fact, one of the animals die the same way as in Chinatown.
Oh.
Which is, there is no water, yet he drowned. And then another reference, because it's Johnny Depp playing Rango, by the way, this movie constantly references Fear and Loathing Las Vegas.
I did notice that as soon as I saw the trailer, apart from the fact that I hated the look of it, yeah. I did notice that he was essentially fucking Hunter S. Thompson, but as a chameleon.
And not just that. One, that explains why he's wearing the shirt. Two, at the very beginning, when the enclosure and Rango's flying about, I'm not kidding you. He ends up hitting the windshield of a car of Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro from Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. There is a CGI version of Johnny Depp playing Hunter Thompson. I'm not kidding you. It is ridiculous. And they always make references to This Is Backcountry with a sequence with moles, I'm not kidding you, who seem to be the villains at some point in the movie, going on bats and saying, we are in bat country. And they go on bats with machine guns.
Okay, this film sounds better.
What I mean by that, it's fantastic in its knowing of pop culture. But kids wouldn't have no idea about this. As a film buff, I was loving it. The idea that I was getting is like, oh my god, that's Chinatown, that is Fear and Loathing Las Vegas, that is this. And it clearly, this is basically showing that, oddly enough, this is done by Gore Verbinski, the ones who did the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. And I think this really shows that this is this homage to good movies. This is his film. This is one who said, I always want to make a fantastic Western, and I always want to do it like this. And I always loved the madness of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, and I always liked the plot line from Chinatown. So I'm just going to basically rip them off, put them together, and make it work. And it really does work that way. Unfortunately, like it says, it gets very serious to the point you almost get slightly bored in the middle of it. It's not as funny as anything else claims to be, even though probably the first 20 minutes is bloody hilarious. And it just seems a little bit not entirely sure what its audience is. If it's for kids, it's possibly only been designed on the beautiful animation and the downright just bizarre quirkiness of the whole thing, and the fact that it's done with fuzzy animals. But if you want to think about plot, if you want to think about pacing, if you want to think about characters, if you want to think about anything, it's adult, completely adult. So it's such a mishmash. So therefore, I would say, watch Rango. You'll figure out which camp you're in. Apart from that, it is a movie that while it's got such a fantastic central hub, its overall approach, its publicity, and everything else is a downright mess.
Wow, brilliant. I should probably give it a watch when it becomes available.
It should do. You should totally watch it. I mean, like, this is a fantastic Western. I can really not emphasize that enough. If it was, like I was saying, if it was done with people, it would just be like a proper adult Western. That's what's so fantastic about it. And that's what's so confusing as well.
Indeed. Well, there we go.